Good morning, NSSO. Hope you guys are well. How are you all? I'm sending this message from a vineyard in Sussex, beautiful place, which looks a little bit like Malvern with the beautiful hills. This is just a message to say how much we missed you this year. It was such a pity not to be able to get together, but we really needed to look after you and make sure that everyone was safe. So it wasn't the right thing to meet this year. However, we can all really start looking forward to 2021, which is going to be an amazing year. And I think one of the things that this is showing us and has taught us is the unique wonder of getting together and making music together, which is absolutely unlike anything else and irreplaceable. All the best. Lots of love.
It gives me great pleasure to introduce to you this wonderful video about a violinist called Sophie. I first met Sophie about 4 years ago when she first came on a NSSO music course. I was immediately struck by her as a huge character with a great sense of humour and also by her tremendous musicianship. I'd been made aware of her hearing impairment, but that meant nothing engaging with her as a musician. She is a tremendous violinist. I think you will find this video truly enlightening and inspiring.
Music is something very powerful. For me, it's always there. I was very lucky to grow up in a musical family, so I was always surrounded by music.
I played music throughout pregnancy, but she would kick to exactly the same places all the time. She'd sit on her grandfather's knee, he'd play the piano and her grandmother would play the violin to her and she'd be mesmerised. There was no doubt in anyone's head that she was always going to play the violin.
When I was younger, I used to call around the house. My mum used to yell my name and I would crawl to her. And then suddenly at the age of 2, I think it was, I stopped being able to follow directional sound.
I kind of got a sense there was something not quite right and it was quite hard to work it out. And I kind of remember like shaking rattles behind her ear and see if she turned around and responded to sound, because she seemed to hear some of the time but not all the time, and which was slightly confusing.
So they took me to the audiologist and I had a couple hearing tests.
We realised she was completely deaf in one ear and her hearing levels on perfect in the other ear. What this really means is she can't hear from behind. She can't hear for about 3/4 of the way round, but it also affects how the brain processes sound.
At that age, nothing crossed my mind. I didn't feel like it was different, and I didn't realise how much of an impact my hearing issue had on me. And so when I first started, I just found ways to adapt. People presume because you have a hearing issue that you won't be able to do music. Obviously that's complete rubbish. We can.
Our media, if you like, is sound. So we assume that, or perhaps the layperson assumes that the feedback that we get is primarily through sound. But all of us are dependent also on muscle memory and on visual content as well. Every student has all of those things in different proportions. Clearly in Sophie's case, the muscle memory, the proprioception, if you like, and the visual side are much more important.
Muscle memory is something that's very important when learning violin. I rely on it more than your average violinist. I look at myself playing and I look if my hand's in the right position and stuff, but I also can feel when you put your finger down on the string in a certain place and it's bang in tune, there'll be a certain sort of like vibration of the string. You mainly feel it from your hands though, and it goes into your left arm, like the wrist and like stuff like that. I can kind of tell if a string's vibrating more or less, whether it's in tune or not. Every single person has different strengths and different weaknesses, and your teachers play to those.
That just took me a little while to adapt my teaching style for her. I need to give her enough time to repeat things so that she can remember what they feel like. I probably played to her more than I would with other people. Let's just try that last one, which is the biggest. Flatter bow head. She needs to copy the physical gestures, so it's less play it like this, more do it like this. So it's a more visual thing. Try it with really flat hair the whole way. The act of gesture, where you finish a note and you make a small curved gesture like that. And make sure that if I illustrate that she sees that she's looking at that, and that will then be something which she's more able to reproduce. There's no sense that the finished product is different because of the hearing issues. The hearing issues are part of her identity, and perhaps in some respect it forms the way she feels or responds to music, but you wouldn't know that.
When you step on stage, it's a feeling like no other. It's a feeling of joy, but then it's also like the emotional journey that the piece takes you on. and you take the audience with you.
You watch her playing in an orchestra setting or an ensemble, she's really attentive to the conductor, because she needs to be, but actually that makes her a really good orchestra member.
Because she can sign and read signing, she finds a lot of her colleagues in the orchestra don't understand a conductor in the same way that she does, and that she's just used to thinking about hand gestures as well. So the gestural element is much stronger in the way her mind works than the average would be.
When I'm trying to listen to the conductor who's trying to tell us about what he wants to do with the music, it's when I can't hear him that makes it really hard. You can have up to, in a full symphony orchestra, like 100 people, 100 kids all around you. And then when you go on and you do the performance, that's when you forget all of this, forget everything that's making you feel different to them, because you all come together, and that means you all feel connected and you all feel the same. And it's one of those feelings where you just feel part of a community and you feel like you really matter. I think it's not until recently that I realised how much it affects me, because I'd never known anything different. My parents, me, my family, none of us thought about how much music affects deaf children. And we didn't realise how many deaf children don't learn music and how many deaf children haven't been given the opportunity to learn music.
You discover your child isn't quite as perfect as you thought they were, and for a minute you feel maybe slightly sad, and then actually you realise that child has not changed. They're still exactly the same child, the same musical child in Sophie's case. There's no reason why a deaf child can't play an instrument. There's no reason why they can't do anything they want to do. It just happens. They don't hear things quite as well as other people.
My brother's a violinist as well. And I remember a lot of people said, oh, you don't want to play the violin because you're left-handed. Because, you do this with the right hand. And he was clearly going to find that really hard to do that with, which is nonsense, because you do all of that with the left hand. But people can sometimes see obstacles that just aren't there. And that's a sort of banal example in comparison, perhaps. But I think that we do tend to think that this is an obstacle that isn't necessarily insurmountable.
Sometimes people just don't get the opportunities to start, and some of the most talented musical kids out there are deaf because they rely on other things that people with hearing issues don't really think about. They rely on the vibrations, which enables them to think more about the feel and the sound quality that's coming out. Therefore, they have different strengths and different weaknesses that a hearing person has, which means overall they can become a much better all-rounded musician. No matter what difficulties you might have, if you have a passion for something, then you just got to go for it. Regardless of what people tell you you can do, what you can't do, regardless of whether you might find it harder than other people, the main important thing is to keep trying, because you don't fail until you give up.